seems that presidential candidate Jose Ramos Horta has gained the majority of votes from Timor Leste's second round of presidential election held on April the 19th.
Yes, however, the people of Timor-Leste still need to wait for the final result to be announced. So to get more updates on it, joining us on Asia Prime tonight, Metro Globe Network's Iqbal Himawan from Dili, Timor-Leste. Good evening, Iqbal. Hello, Iqbal. Good evening.
Yes, Putri, I can hear you.
It's very nice to hear back from you after a week of missing you in office. Okay, so has there been any response from Ramos Horta regarding the initial election results?
Yes, true, Putri. It's been a dynamic week here in Dili, Timor-Leste. As we said before, we did full coverage of the Timor-Leste presidential election 2022 here in the capital of Timor-Leste, Dili. This morning, the candidate number one, Jose Ramos Horta, together with the freedom fighters figure, Sanana Gusmao, held a press conference earlier in the supporters' headquarters in the capital, Dili of Timor-Leste. And then in the press conference, he emphasized on some important things, and some of them are the people's commitment to democracy. It's pretty interesting that he told us that during the election, he's pretty overwhelmed by the response from the voters that spread in all around 14 districts and also one region across Timor-Leste. He said that he got the pictures and videos from the voters from the 14 districts telling him what happens in the voting stations, and then become an independent observer, as we said, about the voting process. And also he also emphasized on the statement made by the people. He said that they thought the election as the oasis of democracy, otherwise turbulence won. I'm not pretty sure what does that mean, the turbulence, but we assume that it related with the political instability in recent days before the election. And he's also said that despite some incident, there's not so many big incidents that need investigation. And as we know, in the first round, Jose Ramos Horta also won the votes. But in the second vote, he won 62.09% compared to Francisco Luolo Gutierrez with 37.91%. If we talked about the total votes, it reached 639,585, or reaching 98.95%. Meanwhile, the total voters, it reached 859,925, or rising 312 people. And participation level, it has reached 75.17%. We can say it's a little bit lower compared to the first round, but still high. And the votes were being counted over from 12 districts and one region, from 1,200 voting stations, including 9 foreign voting stations. Putri, that's the latest update.
Okay, so as you made mention of turbulence, what do you think is going to happen when the ballot papers have been completely counted?
After the votes completely counted, because as we know that after all the votes has been counted, it still needs to be verified in the National Commission election. For 72 hours, it needs to be verified whether all the votes are authorized. From there, after it all authorized, it will be handed out to the Timor-Leste High Court, and then to be authorized and then announced to the public. But after that, Ramos Horta, together with Sanana Gusmao, didn't say much about what happens, or specifically about the turbulence. Or earlier, during the campaign, he said about, if I want, there will be a political earthquake. That's another term that he said to us before, Putri. He doesn't define or elaborate more on that.
So he's really a man of many phrases and terms. So what do you think, let's say hypothetically that Ramos Horta wins the election, do you think that he will dissolve the parliament as requested by Sanana Gusmao?
Yes, we've been hearing it over and over about the Sanana Gusmao request. It has been a requirement for him to support Ramos Horta, specifically related with the political instability that occurs in recent months before the election began. But as we know, this is not the first time Jose Ramos Horta became a president. As we know, he's been president on the period 2007 to 2012. And he emphasized that when he became president at that period, he always pursued dialogue passionately, relentlessly, to find common grounds. It sounds normative, but that's what he keeps telling us, how to overcome the political instability. The aims are to strengthen good governance and respond basic expectation, because he said that what Timor-Leste people ask is very little. And then he continued that he will working with Parliament to see how to respond fast in current economic problem in the world. Meanwhile, related to the Parliament, he said that Parliament is a sovereign institution, so each member of the Parliament is a sovereign person, and any situation happened in the Parliament itself has to be solved inside the Parliament. No other institution can interfere on what happens in the Parliament. But Horta and then continued said that, however, he's open for visits if they're looking for a solution to problems. And what's also interesting is about the economic, because what happens in the Parliament, the instability in the Parliament, or we can assume it's what he meant by political earthquake or political instability, it will affect the economic itself from this youngest democracy in Asian nation. As we say that he keeps emphasizing about the 20 billion US dollar funds in a sovereign funds. He keeps saying that it has to be managed well, it has to be allocated well to feed the poor, because we keep hearing that 40% people in Timor-Leste are living under poverty. So that's what will be his focus on allocating the budget itself. And he also says that the main priority is how to feed a family with 100 US dollars per month. This number hasn't changed for years, so he's tried to change that. And another issue is how to guarantee conducive investment and environment for the foreign direct investment into Timor-Leste, to invite the investors, and at the end will give laborers to overcome the high unemployment numbers. And the last one, Putri, is he will be focused on become the member of Asian nation, because by joining the Asian members, he's pretty sure that become a community of more than 7 billion people. It will pave Timor-Leste's way to be recognized with more countries, that in that way it will bridge more investment and will invite more direct investment to Timor-Leste to rise the welfare of the people of Timor-Leste, Putri.
So Iqbal, speaking on the investments and foreign direct investments, are there any plans of Ramos Horta to have any cooperations, bilateral cooperations with Indonesia?
If we talk about bilateral cooperation, he mentioned a couple of times, especially when we have a one-on-one interview with him, that we have a pretty close relationship with Timor-Leste specifically. It has been, it's been very close with the bilateral relationship. And the last thing that I heard about the bilateral cooperation is they will try to work on the rice production, because so far Timor-Leste has been importing rice from Vietnam. So in short term, Indonesia might be securing more source of rice to be supplied for Timor-Leste people. And other than that, he hasn't mentioned specifically about more investment to Indonesia. He mentions more to, he's been talking to, or in an international conference on a third world countries, and he shows what these third world countries trying to achieve. And then he says that some countries, he mentioned Korea and Japan, are interested in investing